The first ever Walter Cup goes to PWHL Minnesota as they are crowned champions in year number 1. Hey everyone, welcome to Inside the PWHL. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Mike Ganter of the Toronto Sun. And Mike, what a season it was for PWHL Minnesota, going from the number 1 overall pick in the draft to sneaking into the playoffs, coming back from that 2-0 deficit in the playoffs against Toronto, and ultimately beating Boston to win the championship. They experienced pretty much everything you possibly could in an inaugural season, but from afar, what did you make of their year?
Yeah, it was odd because they started out as the team to beat. Like they gelled quicker than anybody and came out of the gate strong. Taylor Heisey was a phenomenon right away. Grace Zumwinkle was a bit of a surprise to some people who hadn't really seen enough of her in the college ranks, but I mean she was in step or every bit as good as Heisey was. And then they had two goaltenders, which, you know, the only other team that really had two solid starting goaltenders on the roster was Montreal, and they had Elaine Chuli and Renee Desbiens. But in Minnesota, I mean, Nicole Hensley and Maddie Rooney were from the beginning like just in step. It was like one would play, win, come out, next one would play, win. And they were just, and then they came out of that international break late in the year, and they couldn't buy a win. They couldn't do anything. Nothing was going right. I think there were a few reasons for that. Zumwinkle was basically benched, if you want to call it that, for the entire World Cup, and that I'm sure that didn't sit well with her, and I'm sure there were some ramifications from that, and it had an impact on her. Heisey was coming off a shoulder injury that she had suffered, and she didn't really look right. To be honest, she didn't really look right until about Game 3 or Game 4 of the Toronto series. But then they got in the playoffs, lost 2, and they got that one win. And as soon as they got that win, I mean, Troy Ryan, the head coach of PWHL Toronto, said it himself. He said, you know, we let them in. He said, and he was blaming himself, and I don't know if this is fair or not, but he was blaming himself, saying, I didn't get the women to understand how important it was to end it right there. We had to end it and finish them off. But he said, we opened that door, they got some confidence, and they have talent. I mean, like I said, Zumwinkle, Heisey, Sophie Jakes. I mean, that was an acquisition mid-season. I mean, full credit to GM Natalie Derwitz. She went out and got a puck-moving defenseman who is not at all a liability defensively, and then and made their offense so much better. And she was huge in this final. So yeah, it was a really up and down season for that team. Full credit to Ken Klee for keeping them sort of on an even keel, and I think full credit to their captain Kendall Coyne Schofield. I think behind the scenes, I think she did and again, I don't know this, I wasn't in the room, but I remember watching, you know, they came into Toronto right at the end of the year, suffered a big loss, and we're finishing up, and I look over, and who's in the corner talking with Klee, and very, very demonstratively is Kendall. And they're having it out. And I guarantee you they were talking about special teams, because all of a sudden the special teams, they didn't get much better from a power play perspective, but penalty kill, they took that into the postseason, and they were so much better. And like I said, Kendall's she's one of these women. She's a super leader, and she's one of the 5 most important players in terms of how this season got off, or how this league got off the ground. And I just